All right, so I know it's kind of a weird place to start this week's video, but because the first few rounds of part 6 of our Summer Blossom Mandala are actually very simple stitches that we've already covered, I wanted to take time and delve into the stitches that we haven't covered yet. Because I thought that would be a little bit more important than just reviewing our standard stitches. So let's talk about the first few rounds of this part 6 and what you need to do. So where we ended last week was right here with all of these shells, right? This week, we picked up by working back post double crochets around each double crochet and single crochet all the way around. That's that orange, that peak of orange that you see behind the blue. Then we half double crochet into each stitch, all right? Then we join color A and we work triple crochets all the way around, this time working into the third loop of our half double crochets. That's what gives us this really beautiful braid that we got going on. After you work all of these triples, you're going to go ahead and work singles all the way around. Now, pay attention to your stitch counts. The pattern on both the website or my blog and that is linked down below has all the information that you need and all of the actual stitch counts for each round. So keep that in mind and really pay attention to that. Where we're going to pick up is actually the round where we focus on our reverse single crochet, because I know that this can be a little bit difficult and a little bit tricky. So after you've completed your round all the way with your color C, which for me is this maroon red, you're not going to finish off your red color. It's very important. Don't finish off. Leave your red on your hook, all right? Now, we're going to work backwards. Reverse single crochet means just that. Instead of working from right to left, we're going to work from left to right. Now, this reverse single crochet round is a little bit different than what we've done so far, because we're not only working backwards, but we're going to be skipping stitches. There's just a lot going on. So once you get to the end of your round, you'll have your one loop on your hook and you'll have a stitch to your right. What you're going to do is just pop your hook into that stitch to the right, pull up a loop. Let me bring this over here and start over. All right, so what you're going to do is just insert your hook in the stitch to the right and pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2. Now I want you to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch on the previous round, and into the next stitch, we're going to just insert our hook, pull up a loop, and pull through 2. Then chain 1. Again, skip a stitch and pull up a loop. Skip a stitch and pull up a loop. And I should say, you got to make sure that you chain in between each of the reverse single crochets. So for every stitch you skip, you should have a chain. All right, so we finish the reverse single crochet, chain 1, skip the stitch, single into the next. And we just repeat that all the way across the round. So you can see it's really not that difficult, and you really get the hang of working these reverse single crochets. Now, I'm going to show you this coming up, but essentially what we're going to do is just kind of pop these reverse single crochets to the front, and then into each of these skip stitches, which I can see there's one here and one here, we're going to actually work half double crochets on the next round. So what this is going to do is just give you a really beautiful kind of three-dimensional, you can see how it bumps out there, three-dimensional touch of texture. So I really, really love this. It looks great, it feels great, and it's a really cool way to add a new stitch and a new bit of texture. Now, I do want to mention, because I'm sure some of you will ask, it's hard to see, but I'm actually working on just a small swatch. I'm not working on the whole Afghan, so that's why my rounds look like this on the end, and they're kind of clipped. But because we're working in the round, it's totally fine. Everything is going to be exactly how you need it to be at home. So let's move on to our next round where we're going to work some half double crochets. All right, so after you work your join, which I've already done here, you're gonna half double crochet into the same stitch as your join. Now, we're going to work into the skipped stitches from 2 rounds before. The way you find those is just kind of push this row of a round of reverse single crochet to the front, and then you can kind of see where those stitches pop out. So there's one. What I'm going to do is into each skipped stitch, I'm going to work 2 half double crochets. So there's another one. And I'm just going to kind of fiddle with my rounds and my stitches and just kind of get things where they need to be in order to work my half double crochets into those skip stitches. All right, so it should look like that. And you're just going to continue this all the way around, working 2 half double crochets into each of your skip stitches. At the end of this round, when you move on to the next round, it's going to be the same thing. It's just going to be offset a little bit because we're going to be working 2 half double crochets into the spaces in between these 2 half double crochet groups. So see this space here where my thumb is, that we'll be working 2 half double crochets there and 2 half double crochets there. Now, I want you to go ahead, finish this round, do the next round, and then the round after that, which is just some filet crochet mesh. When we come back, I'll do a recap of the stitches that we've covered and the stitches that we completed off camera, but I just wanted to show you how to work these 2 half double crochets and where to actually work them. All right, so before we move on to our next round, I just wanted to take a minute and recap what I did off camera. I went ahead and worked 3 rounds. I did our 2 half double crochet round, which I showed you, and I just finished it off camera. Then I worked my next round, which is also 2 half double crochets, worked into the spaces in between each of these 2 half double crochet groups. So you can see here are my groups, and in between I worked 2 half double crochets. All right. Then I worked our row or round of fillet or mesh style crochet, which is just a double crochet, chain space, and you skip a stitch in between each one. All right, so that's all I did. Make sure that you're at this point before you move on to the next round, which is going to be some double crochet decreases and double crochet clusters. All right, so for the next round, you're going to join into your first stitch, and then you're going to do a chain 2. Now, the chain 2 technically does count as part of our first stitch. So what we're going to do is work clusters across. Now, in the pattern, they're not labeled as clusters because I thought it would be a little bit easier if we just did it this way. So what we're going to do first is yarn over our hook, insert our hook into the chain space and pull up a loop, and then pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, pull up, and pull through 2. Then we'll yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on our hook. All right? Now, into every chain space around, you're simply going to work a double crochet 3 together, but we're going to go all into that same chain space. So see how I have kind of like a double crochet 3 together set up here, and then we pull through all 4 stitches. Then you're going to work your chains, and then to the next space, you're going to do the same thing. So we're just going into the chain space, pulling up a loop, then pulling through 2, then yarning over and pulling through 3, okay? Just like that. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Now remember, this is I've told you guys this a few times throughout this Afghan. If you're a tight chainer like I am, you really need to be careful on these chain spaces. And so you may need to add an extra chain in there if you're finding that your work is curling in, or you may need to take a chain away if you're finding that your spaces are ruffling because you have too much going on. So keep that in mind. All right. All right, so I went ahead and worked the last 2 rows, which were just single crochets in between each of these clustery stitches. And then the very last round that you're going to work is in your color A, so the color you started with, and it's just going to be single crochets in each single crochet across. Now, the pattern is going to give you the full breakdown of how many stitches you need at the end of this final round. Try to get as close to that as possible. If you're off 1 or 2 stitches, it's really not that big of a deal. I absolutely promise you, I assure you, it is not that big of a deal. We're going to make these scallops fit. And if we're being totally honest, my final stitch count was not right where I needed it to be, but this mandala is super forgiving. So we're going to fudge where we can and go from there. So uh, that's all you need to do for the last 2 rounds. After that, you're going to want to go ahead, weave in all the ends on your mandala so far. Make sure everything is good to go. And the next week, we'll tackle the scallops. But for this week, we're done. That's all there is. A lot of easy stitching to finish off this beautiful texture mandala. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to drop a comment below, like this video, share it with your friends. And always remember that you can get the kit, the pattern, everything is all linked below. Until next time, friends, happy stitching. Bye, y'all.